One big difference is ease of use. Azure Remote Rendering makes it really simple to view your content when every detail matters. And we've designed it to handle even the largest 3D models. And when I say large 3D models, I'm talking about over 1 billion polygons for triangular meshes and up to 2.5 billion points for point cloud lines. Another differentiator is that it leverages hybrid rendering, meaning that developers can easily extend their existing mixed reality applications and take advantage of cloud computing when needed. And so when you combine all this with the security, reliability, and production readiness of Azure, Azure Remote Rendering is a powerful enabler for your key mixed reality scenarios.
And welcome back at the Global XR Conference 2022 for our second session with Christian Glessner today. Christian, welcome.
Thank you.
Your session is called Next Stop Genesis Plaza. Do you want to talk a bit about what your session is going to be about?
Sure, it's about Decentraland. So Genesis Plaza is the place where you come in first. And yeah, and by the way, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I'm just currently in Singapore and in a hotel, and I hope my my connection will be fine.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, I'm excited for your talk. Do you want me to share your screen? I see you're currently sharing.
Yes, I
I think
switched.
different content than what you actually want to show.
Yeah, I just have to make that window. I do not have so many screens here in
Yes.
the hotel. Like I'm used to be. That makes things a bit
Oh, thank
more
you so much.
complicated.
Thank you so much for doing a live session at this time from Singapore. That's really awesome.
Yeah, here it's around, it's 11 o'clock, but yeah, it's fine.
Well, then let's get started. Thank you.
Yeah, so then welcome to Next Stop Genesis Plaza. So yeah, my name is Christian Glessner. I'm the founder of Hololux and CEO. So we help customers to get their companies or make their vision true and their mission in the metaverse. So that's for sure, that is a long journey, and we are pretty much at the beginning. And yeah, actually, I'm here in Singapore because of that topic. We have, for example, we run here the Microsoft booth in Singapore, and also one of our customers had a metaverse experience, Citibank, which they also show the potential of these new technologies to their clients. Yeah, I started also very early with IT, my passion for this. So I'm from Germany, and my parents had a travel agency, so I wasn't aware about it. But it seems in this business you started to invest early in things, I don't know, communication, telex, computer, and somehow I grew up between computers. There were always this amber sparkling screens of an AS400, and then the cursor ready. The tabula rasa to create something completely new from scratch. That was always what drives my passion into IT. And for sure, when all that things came up with VR, AR, Metaverse, however you call it, my childhood dream came much closer. Yeah, and by the way, I'm also for 13 years now a Microsoft MVP. Before in the collaboration area with SharePoint, M365, and now for a few years for mixed reality. So then, oh yes, a nice typo. The Metaverse, so the vegetarians will not like that, I guess. Yeah, the Metaverse. The question is what is this actually? And I think that's there are many different opinions about this. One thing I think it's also sure it's not here. It's something that eventually will come. That the point where everybody rather agrees on is that it will be the next evolution of the internet. And I would say that what basically the internet gets 3D, everything gets 3D, but this is not enough. Then it would just be like Ready Player Me. It also have to become immersive. You have to really to feel it. It. In the future will be you not just go on a brand website. You step into a website. You step into a brand, and it have to be immersive. And yeah, there are also a lot of studies about it, how much revenue it will make. As I saw just my client here, Citibank, they said now that's the highest number I heard. I think they said it's 13 trillions market volume. JP Morgan said, I think at the beginning of the year, around 1 trillion. So the numbers getting higher and higher. So one thing is somehow should be clear. The metaverse is not there. It's currently a marketing hype. It's a little bit like 10 years ago. I know it's even maybe 15 years ago that term came, like cloud computing, and then there were also all that analytics. How much, I don't know, how much revenue it will make, how big will be the market potential, and things like this. And it was also a little overhyped that the customers, they were all on premises. They, especially in Europe, they didn't want to go to the cloud at all. And then 10 years later, somewhere you wake up and suddenly everybody's in the cloud. And I don't know, I think barely somebody talked these days about cloud computing, because it's actually completely something normal, business as usual. And when we talk these days about the metaverse, it's a little bit like when the internet, the first iteration came of the internet, let's say 80s, 90s. And then the people maybe would start to imagine, what would we do with this TCP, IP, HTML, and and all that stuff. And that would be hard to imagine what we have today, like SharePoint, Teams, the platforms, I don't know, like eBay, Google, Amazon, this big marketplaces. I think nobody could really imagine that it maybe looks like this. And a little bit it's now with the metaverse. Let's say we are in kind of self HTML or 0-1 phase in the metaverse and trying experimenting. And there are different things and technologies that influence that thing. So we have virtual worlds. Oh, the pen didn't work. Let me see. Let me fix that. So we have here, for example, virtual worlds. Virtual worlds, we also know for a longer time they're open world, closed worlds. For example, Decentraland is an open world, Sandbox is an open world. And then we have closed worlds, like, for example, AltspaceVR. So we have these virtual worlds. And then we have platforms, they're coming more from the Web 3.0 area. I think the most famous ones here are Decentraland and Sandbox, the most famous. They're coming more from the core values of the internet. They're coming more from the Web 3 movement. They're based on decentralization, for blockchain, NFTs, and technologies like this. But they're most of the time not immersive. And then we have this technology that drives the metaverse. And this is mixed reality, AR, VR. And I think recently the term mixed reality made it, because when Mark Zuckerberg also now start to talk about mixed reality, it seems finally mixed reality is the term. This is the technology we build it with. Imagine a little bit. It's a little bit like we built we built the World Wide Web. We built it with HTML and JavaScript, and we built a metaverse with AR and VR. It's a little bit like this. And I always say, okay, it's not maybe the dev talk, but I always say the mixed reality toolkit is like, like React component framework for JavaScript, but just for AR, VR. So we have this technology. And this is really, really important. Without that technologies, it's such like second life. And people often say, oh, yeah, all that metaverse thing, this is, this is just second life. We had that already. That would be true when there would not be AR, VR, and all that technology in the game. And then we have another thing that maybe it's also maybe not the most obvious one, but the metaverse will also give a super high potential and for AI, because it will be the first time that we can give AI a face, a body, expressions, emotions. I'm really not a big fan, and I do not use it too much with talking to a black box to my phone. Hey Siri, blah blah blah. I don't like that so much. And with AR VR, we can have really agents, that have human behavior. And for the brain, it will be the same, and they can really show emotions. And you see also from this area things like you see the strands, I don't know, face swap and meta-human and things like this. This is also an aspect of the metaverse, and it will be also an enabler for this. And when you see then a technology, for example, let's say Decentraland is currently strong in these two areas. But at the moment, let's say here's a little bit, you have some really, really non-player characters here, NPCs, very, very, not much, so a little bit of chatting. It's mostly strong in this areas. So, but to become a real metaverse, it somehow should fill all that things. And then you have other platforms like Sandbox, by the way, exactly the same. And then you have platforms like, for example, AltspaceVR or Mesh. They will mostly, they are virtual world, closed world, but they use virtual reality, and that means that's the immersiveness. So this is much more immersive, more intense the experience, but they lack the whole Web 3.0 thing, and with NFT, blockchain, decentralization. And so there is currently not one real metaverse platform that you could really say this is now a real metaverse. And what we also should be aware about that things with the metaverse is, I think it will take the same development a little bit more like the internet. I was 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago on the GITEX in Dubai, and it's a really, really large event. It has over 100,000 attendees. It's about IT, and they had also that XVerse for the first time because Dubai want to become one of the top 10 metaverse cities worldwide. And there were a lot of startups, and you saw, I don't know, every second booth had something. Hey, we have a metaverse platform, and we have a metaverse platform, and we, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. And it's a little bit, I think, like in the internet. It's now that it's really a huge hype about that topic. But I think not many will survive. It will be like a metaverse bubble, like we had the internet bubble, and bam. And then in the end, some of them survive. Maybe it's Decentraland, maybe a Sandbox, maybe it's Horizon. I think it will be similar, like what the same thing that we saw in the internet. Some big player will come out of it, and it might be even that a big player will fail. For example, when the strategy of Meta will not work somehow because they do mistakes or it develops too slow, it could really, really become a huge problem for Meta because they have very high bet on the metaverse. So it will bring new giants maybe, but it could also kill an old giant. It's a really a technology that has a lot of potential, a disruptive technology. So and one thing that's really missing and Decentraland, but I just want to tell because this is really important for Metaverse is they had that experiment 2000 with Stanford where they put people in a room scale virtual reality. They had no clue what it is about. They just checked how the people walk, and they put them in a basic object like a cube or something like this. And the people, or they put their head in they walk through it. And then they changed the experiment. They put in a human-looking avatars, moving the head a little bit, moving the eyebrows, and the behavior changed completely. They kept something like personal distance, so they acted the same way, like there would be a real human. They had exactly the same walkway. And what they definitely could prove is that it's the first technology that can trigger your instincts and touch your emotions. And this is a very important game changer, that this brings the aspect of immersiveness. 3D we have already a little longer, but make it immersive. And this comes with this technology. So when the platforms like Decentraland and Sandbox, they now all call themselves Metaverse, but actually they're more Web 3.0 platforms. But one thing here is I found out is my friend Sean, and we did a mixed reality tour with him here on the Gamescom in Germany and in Poland, and he is actually developing the virtual reality client for Decentraland. So I think that would be a very big step for Decentraland. So what is now Decentraland? Yeah, like described here, Decentraland is a 3D virtual world browser-based platform. So this is also for many people important, that browser-based, so many more people can access it. And you can buy, or you have virtual ground, you pay for that, and you can own land there. And it's sold as NFT. You can also have variables. It's built on the Ethereum blockchain. Yeah, and it started 2020 and is owned by a non-profit foundation. So they're coming a lot of that Web3 decentralization foundation movement. Same, by the way, for Sandbox. So this is just some impressions how it looks like. You can build games. Yeah. So there are some important things about that platform. For example, it is governed by a such called DAO. That stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And the DAO owns most important smart contracts and assets to make up Decentraland. The land contract, the estate contract, variables, content servers, marketplace. And it owns a substantial purse of mana. This is the local currency. And it allows to be really autonomous. For example, how that works is the people, you own either land or mana, the currency, and people can bring in proposals to the DAO and drafts, and people can vote for it. When you have enough vote points, your paper gets approved. Then you get automatically funded by that DAO. For example, I saw it. I checked it with Sean. He made a proposal for a virtual reality client for Decentraland. Many people vote for it and say that's a good thing, and then he got automatically, I think it was around, it depends always, a little bit on the value of mana and Ethereum, but it was this time, I think it was around 250,000. He get automatically funded by that DAO. And so this is also something, very special when you compare to Meta or to Microsoft, because actually the people owning the land and owning the mana decides what happens. On the other side, what Microsoft is doing with Mesh and what Meta is very central. So this is, let's see, it's a little bit like we see here in China have a completely different government system than we in Europe, and it's here a little bit in the Metaverse also a little bit like this. We have more organizations on the Metaverse coming more as this area from larger companies, enterprises. On the other side, more government, decentral. But it's also not a real democracy or something like this, because it's a government by the rich. You own a lot of mana, you have more vote. So it's not that everybody counts equally. But it's by the way, this principle of a DAO is very, very famous or very common in all that Web3 based platforms. And Sandbox is also governed by a DAO. What we see here is the map of Decentraland. It has 90,000 parcels. Recently, there was the question, why 90,000 parcels? I think there's not a real reason for it, but it was limited. And that's with all the things in real life or in everything. When you limit something, it gets more value, and it's so it's artificially limited. Theoretically, when you when a medical proposal and say, hey, it should be 180,000 parcels, and you get enough votes, you could also change it. But currently, it's 90,000 parcels. What is a parcel? You see that's very small. I don't know, it's hard to see. Very small rectangles here. All of this, the small things. This is always a parcel, and it's actually 16 square meters. And the price currently, it became rather cheap. At the beginning of the year, it was around $20,000 around one parcel, and now it's around $5,000. So it's a quarter of the value. So when you think that maybe Decentraland would be one of the platforms that make it out of this metaverse bubble, it would be a good idea to buy now some ground. When we are talking about that ground, this is, by the way, Genesis Plaza, and these places that you see here, they are owned by the DAO, by the foundation, and they decide what it is. It's like a public government-owned places. And let's say you want to buy ground here or here. It's much more expensive because you're very close to a place here. All the people land here. You want to buy land here around, it's much more expensive. Or you want to buy, I don't know, where there's a big crossroad here. Yeah, my pen doesn't want anymore. You buy near a crossroad, much more expensive. Here is the fashion district. In this area, there are the brands like Dolce & Gabbana and brands like this. You buy clothes here, much more expensive. You buy somewhere here at the ass of the world somehow, cheaper. So it's the same, somehow it's the same rules like you would buy real ground. Yeah, somehow this slide didn't want to switch. So my PowerPoint doesn't want, maybe now. Yeah, we talk about all that metaverse things, and but the simple things like a PowerPoint can still make a lot of problems. Yeah, let me restart it. Let me restart. Okay, so we switch now from virtual ground to the builder, and this is a big distinction between the two platforms, between Decentraland and Sandbox, and that's why I personally prefer more Decentraland. So in Sandbox, you use voxel art that you might know from Minecraft. So you have always this cubes where you can place, and then you can build things, but it always have this for sure voxel style. I'm personally not such a big fan of that voxel style. But the advantage of that voxel stuff is you see many people can build actually with voxels. It's quite easy. But when you go to Decentraland Builder, you can import your own 3D models, your own GLBs, your own art, and you can art-wise, you can make much more interesting things. So I think Decentraland is currently a little more favored by artists because they can bring in their real art and not just building some voxel art. For sure, they have also some basic objects where you can build things, but it's getting really cool when you bring in your own models. So, and this is that Sandbox can have much easier, much more builder, and in Decentraland you might need a more professional 3D team to build some really cool stuff. What Decentraland has also is an SDK where you can really develop with JavaScript. The second monitor gave up. I have to start it again. Yeah, it's based on JavaScript. For example, yeah, you have an entity, you can load that easily and then transform the position. Yeah, it's a web-based platform as we saw before, and it's not so hard actually to develop. It's also a little bit of this mono behavior-driven development that you maybe know from Unity, or even on AltspaceVR when you make such a MIE extension, it's pretty much the same. But you can build really, I think, yeah, you can really build games on top of this. So it gives you quite a flexibility, the SDK, that you can really bring in great gamification. And yeah, there are some major brands on it. A very famous was when Samsung goes there, Nike, Coca-Cola, Atari, MasterCard, Dolce Gabbana, Ford, JP Morgan. I think that was beginning of the year. And really recently, I think maybe 2 months ago, the Post of Austria, the Post Office Austria, opened there a small shop where you can buy stamps, digital NFTs stamps, which have they are digital twin of a real stamp. You get both. I think it was around 10 euros or something a price, where they opened really a shop there. So I really would not expect that a company like the Austria Post would open up a shop in Decentraland, but actually they did. And for sure, most important, HoloLux also has an office there. It's still work in progress. And maybe, yeah, what was the idea? Why we said, okay, we want to open also our office in Decentraland. So one thing is, we do for sure consulting for customers about different metaverse platforms and strategies to go into the metaverse. And so it's very important that you get this information firsthand, how it is. So, and one is for sure, eat your own dog food. I do not want to tell customers things that I didn't experience myself or do not have experience. Then for sure, it's a place for marketing. You can put in your flyers, your success stories, your videos, your showcases. You can also use it for recruitment, because maybe when people join that platform, they're most likely an early adopter or has to do something with development or art. Then also something we try is we sell some NFT art and collectibles, wearables, so people can buy NFT. Then we can host there. You will also see that it's some strategy that many companies doing there is they host events or concerts, and we also plan to have some meetups in Decentraland for community things. And very, very simple, the price is also quite low currently, and so it's also an invest when Decentraland will become one of the most famous platforms. It's also a good invest. So then this is something general about building in the metaverse. It's not specially for Decentraland. I see, and somehow I also understand it. When you start with it, people tend to build the offices that they really have. And yeah, most of the offices I know from customers, even from larger brands, they are not so super exciting. And I think it's not a good idea when you even have in reality not the most exciting office, then to rebuild that in the metaverse. When we see architecture that we use these days, why they are mostly rectangular. They're mostly rectangular for reasons like costs, simple, faster, physics, statics. Many of this is inspired also by physical limits. And yeah, and in the metaverse, you do not have that restrictions. And many people, as I said, that's the part I understand. Many people say then, okay, to guide people there a little bit, or to do not make it too crazy with them. Somebody said, oh, I do not want to give my clients immediately, I don't know, flying mushrooms and psychedelic things everywhere. Start then with something more conservative. But I think in the metaverse, you should not try to copy real things. You rather should reinvent your brand or reinvent the things you're doing, and not just copying one-to-one things. So we did a lot of about a little bit of the making of. We weren't so happy it was all a little bit too real, and so we did also a brainstorming again about shapes. We had here a very special challenge because it's a this invest or this office is a shared office actually with our partner company Azure. They use virtual mixed reality for selling real estate properties, new and used one. And so we have to bring both the styles in. And so we even have, in this case, a collaboration between, let's say, fantasy, our concept artist, and a real architect. So then we decided here for sketches, we decided Azure we get a ground floor where they can show a mesh, a 3D model of their properties. Here they have some NFTs of the properties showcasing, and we are on the second level. Yeah, we have our logo showcases around and some of the team who built that stuff. So because for sure, maybe when people like our office, they may say, hey, contact us when you also want to have a cool office like this. So this is then a first sketch of the top floor that we want to use for community events and live concerts and things like this. And so then you usually start to make some concepts. And then we try to, beside the silhouette, we try to spice it up also a little bit for the inside to make it a little more creative. And then you start usually to do the first renders. And when you start with that process, or in general with designing, you see it's not so easy to build something exciting for Decentraland because you have very tough polygon restrictions, how much polygons you can use. So we heard at the beginning exactly the opposite when the guy from remote rendering said, hey, here 1 billion polygons. You have here, we had actually here a limit. I think you have 5,000 per parcel. We have we have 4 parcels, so we had 20,000 polygons. So we are far away from the billion polygons that Azure remote rendering can do. And then it's really hard to build something exciting with shapes and rounded things when you have such tough polygons limit. And that's what I say in Sandbox. That's much easier. You just put some voxel, and you do not have to fight with this. And for building something exciting in Decentraland, you need a really good 3D team. You need kind of a team that can build a AAA game art. And this is then how our building finally look like as a 3D model, where we tried somehow to mix it with a little bit real architecture and also with a little more fantasy and glowing things. So I want to try to show some stuff live, but actually I'm not sure if that will work because the Decentraland is, unfortunately, it's also one of the weaknesses. It's not the fastest tool, and in the hotel internet, I have really some issues with Decentraland. So when you start it, you can play as a guest. You do not need a login, or you can connect it with your wallet. Yeah, let me choose use a new window, and I just enter. No, I do not want to use it, and let me connect it with my wallet. I just use here Chrome. I try to log in with my mobile phone. No, it doesn't want. Yeah, just give it another try. It's signed. Yeah, so definitely performance is one of the weaknesses here. Also, when you see recently the news, let's see if it will load or not. And in the meantime, I tell a little bit also about the weaknesses. So currently, or the loading time is not very great. It still feels a little bit buggy somehow. How they reload properties when you move around in that world is also not super elegant. So there's definitely also a lot of potential here to improve. Finally, I think it might be too slow here with my hotel internet. And what you also have to see is the performance. You have also performance settings, and that's also a challenge for some clients. When you do not have any kind of graphic device in your computer, the performance and graphics will not be so great. Even you use things in a browser, it does not always mean it runs everywhere and it runs super smooth. Also, it does not run on a mobile phone. So there are also some challenges, even it's in the browser, because people think always it's running in the browsers, no problems. But it might be easier, but it's not as easy as you might expect. So what you also can do in Decentraland, just we did that too. For example, there were another event that was, I don't know, months ago, Bits and Pretzel on the Oktoberfest. Yeah. Oh, I still wear my Bits and Pretzel outfit. So that's me. And yeah, I wear a Bavarian, a traditionally Bavarian outfit. So we made for Bits and Pretzel as NFT. Dirndl, and so now you can and Bavarian Lederhosen, so that you can now wear Bavarian clothes in Decentraland. So that's Genesis Plaza, by the way. Let me fall down here. Yeah, so this is the first experience when you usually come in. You have here a small non-player character, but it's not real far away that you could call that a real AI. So let me see if the map. So as I told you before, this is Genesis Plaza. Let me see if I found our office. And what I also do not like so much is you do not see many point of interest here. You can jump everywhere, but you do not see many of the point of interest. So you have to know where you go, or you really have to run very far to the platform. So that's a little bit better in Sandbox. And now you see here that thing, for example, it's still not 100% finished, but now you see our work in progress office. The interior is still not done. Yeah, it's hard when you try to use that with the touchpad. Yeah, sorry for it's maybe a little bumpy with the touchpad. Yeah, so we show here also the making of Decentraland, and then we have let's go to the top floor here. And as I said, for Bits and Pretzel, we make this collection of wearables, also to attract people to go to your location and then grab some collectibles, wearables. You see, let's go down. I walk you to the fashion district. So I think here should be somewhere yeah, you will see now that I think it loads very slow. Usually there should already be buildings. So I really think it's extremely slow, everything, because I'm here in the hotel internet. It seems doesn't load. So regarding avatar customization, I'm not a big fan of what you can do with the avatar, because you just have here a little bit a body. You can choose female, and also the head. There's really even the haircut I have here with the I call it a Metaverse haircut. You even cannot find that haircut here, so I cannot build any avatar that looks in any aspect similar to me. So I really am not a big fan of the avatar designer. You have also emotions. People, like a little bit like in Mesh for Teams, the avatar can do certain moves. They have some built-in tops, but it looks like it's very slow. And then you can have collectibles. Yeah, I think it really just doesn't load that things. Usually I have all that variables that you just see in the Bavarian thing. It doesn't work well here in the wireless. So let's give up that here that at this part it will not work very well with my wireless. And I think that's the point where we can switch to questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Christian, for this really nice introduction to Decentraland. I don't see questions yet on the Discord, hopefully later. So let me ask some questions. Why do you think we see this resurgence of all those virtual worlds, which are kind of, I mean, we had Second Life many years ago. It kind of didn't really succeed. Then we had High Fidelity, which was like Second Life with NFTs and blockchain. And now we see more and more, and all of those like basically didn't succeed. And now we see more and more of those virtual worlds. Why do you think that is? And why do you think people now keep coming back to that?
Yeah, so as I said before, it will not work out without mixed reality. That's the ingredients that was missing. It have to be immersive. It's just, as I said, it will not trigger your emotions and things like this when it's just 2D. It have to become immersive. If not, as I also said, it's Decentraland is just like kind of a blockchain with Second Life with blockchain or something like this, and it's not a real game changer. And I think in this form, it will not, it cannot be a success. That cannot be. It missed really that part. It's really that you have now a technology that is able to trigger emotion and instincts. And as said, when you can trigger emotions of people, most of the decisions we do are not really based on logic. They're based on emotion and instinct. And it's important for collaboration. It's super important for marketing. As I said, they sell usually, they sell always over emotion. I always see that, I don't know, this when they sell Bounty or something, a chocolate bar, and then you see the people there with top shape and everything running on the beach. It's actually just sugar, and when you eat it, you get super fat, and it has nothing to do with the reality. They try to sell you that Caribbean feeling or something like this, where if not, the people would not sell it. And now you have something where you can bring into your brand, and you really can influence their brain and make it for the brain real. But these platforms like Sandbox and Decentraland, they are missing this.
So you think that's really the game changer as soon as you can visit that world in a VR headset?
Yeah, so that is a must. That this will succeed. If not, it's just like you said, it's just Second Life with blockchain. But NFT is also a very weird topic, or that blockchain that people, the Bored Apes, for example, they're super expensive. And I also had a session on the GITEX about the future of fashion with also Decentraland or other platforms. And when you see fashion and NFTs fits very well, because fashion has no real function. When somebody buys something from Dolce or Chanel, this is not just to protect you from rain. Actually, it's just a status symbol where people show off that they can afford something, and they show that's not really functional. And I think you could also call NFT, you could also not, instead non-fungible token, you could also call them non-functional token, because they're also just a status symbol. And then when the Bored Apes, for example, Justin Bieber, Madonna, and everybody start from the celebrities to buy that things, and they used it on their LinkedIn profile. So, and this is also an important part of humanity somehow. They want to show off and show status symbols, and that will exactly the same thing will happen in the metaverse. So that's why you have the immersiveness on the other side for making a real society. I'm not sure why we made like this, but we transport these things like status symbols into the metaverse, and that's the part of NFT and blockchain. And then it get much more transparent, everything. Also, it's also interesting for marketing. You can exactly track the movement. The new devices like Quest Pro, they can track your faces, your face movement. They know how you react on things. It brings also absolutely biometric transparency what you think. And your NFT, your wallet, get kind of your social passport. You cannot enter a venue when you not wear a Chanel bag. So they're two, but they're different things. This is coming from that Web3 blockchain, but the real game changer, I think, is really the mixed reality technology in it.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen in the future. And those, I mean, the brands that are already now basically investing into things like Decentraland by building their offices there. And do they actually have people that then also spend a part of their day as an avatar selling you things, or is it all
in
kind of empty?
Decentraland is not about collaboration. It's just about having a virtual presence, or it's more a B2C. It's more a consumer thing. Imagine we see it like a little bit like a website. It's just another channel in 3D where you can attract people. It's more like a website, and then you have more immersive things like Mesh for Teams. You cannot use that for as a place for your a consumer. It's more a place where your employees interact, but then you want to have more this all visual clue and this feeling of social presence. But as I say, eventually that things will all converge. But currently you have these two big things, more immersive platforms like Altspace, Mesh, and more this Web 3.0 things. But everybody claim now the term Metaverse.
Yeah, of course, everything's Metaverse. Well, thank you so much. A cool talk, really interesting. And well, I think that's it for us. Have a good day in Singapore. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.